travel all around the world and make content about finding the coolest animals in the coolest places. But not everyone's a professional YouTuber who can just travel about for work. So what if you have one family vacation a year? Can you enjoy it with your family and go herping? Today we're at an all-inclusive resort right here in Cuba, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can find the coolest herps even if you're not in the coolest herping locations. My name's Adam, Diamond's at home on his day off. You're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles. Stick around. One thing you can be sure of everywhere you go is to find house geckos. Now, house geckos, they are everywhere. If you find them in Texas, Florida, you'll definitely find them in places of the Caribbean like Cuba. So this guy here is a small house gecko, and there's a bigger one that we're gonna go try to catch, but this one here is going to eat things like flies and bugs and things like that. Keep these things in the wild where they belong. They are native to Cuba, and I'm going to put this one back on the wall where it belongs in the first place. So the entire point of a video here is to try to see if we can herp an all-inclusive resort. So we went to Cuba, we went to a beach, and we're looking around these agave plants that are basically everywhere. The problem with agave plants is that they are, well, very spiky. So anything that moves quickly is going to be difficult for you to grab, and we can hear other things that we're gonna look for too. But what we found here is a Cuban tree frog. Now these, if you're from Florida, you've seen 100 times before because they're extremely invasive. They're beautiful animals. They like to jump a whole bunch, so I'm gonna be careful of that. There we go, a little bit gentle. He was on the inside, and because these guys are insect eaters, they're gonna be out during the night. They're gonna hide in these agave plants during the daytime so that they can get away from predators. Now the predators are what we're looking for, and I don't know if we're gonna find them because unfortunately, the apex predator here are domestic cats that we saw take down a bird a little bit earlier. So unfortunately, finding snakes, I'm not sure if we're gonna do that here. We're gonna venture into the woods a little bit later and see what we can find over there. Hey Trish.
Hello.
Who are you?
Trish. And I have a green anole here.
Is it a male or a female?
It is a male.
How do you know?
Because it's green.
And where do we find them?
And the agave plants in Cuba. I had some berries by the looks of it on his mouth.
He eats insects.
Well, looks like he ate some berries.
Oh, I guess we've never introduced Trish before. Trish came to Cuba with me as my girlfriend and helped with finding the tree frogs and the anoles and all sorts of different things. And, oh, now she's not my girlfriend anymore. Okay, back to the video.
You want to be my wife instead?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. So can you herp at all-inclusive resorts? Yes, you can. I don't think that you're gonna find what you're looking to find. There's lightning over there now. You can't find, he's gonna jump right in my face. You can't find giant snakes likely on your resort. You're probably not gonna find crocodiles or monitors or anything like that. But if you're looking for just really cool natural herps, the ones that you're gonna find in everybody's backyard, you definitely can. And also, the face on this guy is absolutely freaking adorable. Just the biggest eyes, and of course these animals are poisonous, so be careful, wash your hands before you put them back in your mouth. But in terms of cute frogs, it's amazing that we found this Cuban tree frog just on the ground. And there are toads in this area too, which is where you'd think to find these guys. My guess is they were in this tree and likely there was a bug on the ground and this guy went to go get them, probably ate them because he looks like he's just had dinner. This is another Cuban tree frog. And just because you're on an all-inclusive resort and these animals probably, well, they're gonna be where they are, that doesn't mean that you don't put them back exactly where you found them in the first place. We found this guy on the ground, even though he belongs in the trees. Sometimes you're herping for stuff, you can see things from many miles away. And by many miles, I mean like 3 floors away because your girlfriend has eyes that you don't have. So we're gonna go ahead and find a little tree frog that is actually on the ground. And that's the whole thing. When people think, oh, well, if you're looking for tree frogs, put your eyes up. Well, sometimes they're on the ground. And that's because sometimes their food is on the ground. And I feel like in about 2.5 seconds, I'll be able to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Cuban tree frog. Now that tree frog is right there, but there's another one on the ground right here. When you find frogs, oftentimes they're not exactly where you thought they were going to be. He just did a big poop explosion all over me, which is fine. But his name is Hector, and I feel like he's just on the ground looking for bugs and larvae and things like that. The thing he has to avoid is cats. So we're gonna look around for cats before we put him back. And then we're gonna put him back probably on the windowsill right above where he was in the first place. Because although you should always put animals back exactly where they came from, you should always think to yourself, is there predators that shouldn't be here? And there are. There's so many. There's just cats freaking everywhere. So another Cuban tree frog that is in arboreal species on the ground, which makes me think, well, maybe there's a lot of insects on the ground that these guys are supposed to eat. A couple really cool finds right next to the restaurant here. So first of all, we found this giant toad, which was sitting up, looking around, and as soon as he saw the light, he ducked down as if we were predators, which I'm not. I promise I won't eat you, Gerard, which is his name now. Also, we found a thread snake. Now, this is a dead thread snake, but if you've listened to my videos before, I've talked about how cool these snakes are, because these are blind snakes, and blind snakes basically have no eyes, and they look like worms. If you looked at this, you'd think, wow, that's a worm. That's really cool. No, that's a snake. That's a reptile. That is not an animal that has 7 hearts and goes through the mud and just eats. What he does is he eats other larvae of other things, such as ants, for example, and slugs. That's what he eats. So he has the exact same function as every other snake. He's got 1 heart, he's got lungs, he's got scales. This is an animal that is a snake, even though it looks just like a worm. And he fits on the back of this toad as if he's nothing. And I'll bet you this toad has found snakes just like this and eaten them up just like they're spaghetti. Lady of the Tramp style, probably, with his girlfriend. So Gerard, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll let him go back to finding other thread snakes.
I think it's important too to mention, if you're on vacation doing this, if you're going herping as part of your vacation, don't forget the vacation part. You only get 1 or 2 of these a year. So while you're there, enjoy the a la carte restaurants, enjoy the beach, go to the horseback riding or other excursions. Whatever it is that you're doing, enjoy that. And if you're going to the beach, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can look for crabs and iguanas or whatever it is that you're looking for as you're in the ocean with your family. And although a big emphasis on this trip was definitely to go herping and show that you can go herping, that was at the top of mind when we booked this particular resort, at the end of the day, we had a lot of fun too, and I think you should if you're going on vacation.
So you have to be careful with these amazing little anole species. Now, these guys are going to turn around and try to bite you, and that's how you know that they're going to be stressed. And these guys here we found on this, agave plant. Agave is what they make tequila out of. The other thing too is when you're talking about these animals and you're handling them, you have to be careful because they can overheat pretty quickly. An amazing species that you find in the hobby all the time. They're pretty cheap, they're easy to find, but also you're gonna find them on basically every island over here in the Caribbean. And you have to be very careful because they're very delicate. And this one here, because he has that amazing dewlap and he's that bright green, we know he's a male. So tonight he's sleeping. So tomorrow he's gonna be looking for insects to eat and also mates. But right now, let's put him back so he can go back to sleep. I get asked a lot, what's the difference between a frog and a toad? Well, all toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. And what makes toads true toads is these glands on their heads. And these are called parotoid glands. And these are what produce the venom. Basically what it is it's a poison, really, not a venom. Because what it is venom is something that gets injected inside of you, and poison is something that goes inside your body via consumption. So more or less, if your dog were to eat this toad, he would get very, very sick. Now, the exact species of this toad, to be honest with you, I don't know. But it's the internet, so I'll put it right here. Basically, these guys are toads, and toads are going to be able to live in sometimes drier climates. These guys obviously live in the same climate as tree frogs, but they're found on the ground. The exact same diet. They're going to be eating things like flies, like ants. They're going to eat beetles, things like that. And when you see butterflies flying around, it's only because these guys didn't get to the larva first. So these are an amazing part of the ecosystem, and unfortunately, there's a bunch of cats around here that are trying to more or less decimate this population, but if you find a dead cat laying around your resort, it probably tried to eat one of these. Herping is subjective to everybody. It depends what you want. What's your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to find the most amount of species in the smallest amount of area or big areas? Is it really quantity that you're after? Or are you just looking to find stuff because your family took you on vacation and now you're here and you want to find stuff? Because I tell you what, you can do that. Because guess what? We found another Cuban tree frog. And this guy literally jumped right on my head. The point is, you can find things no matter where you are. If you're in a place that has a bunch of different species, or at least a few different species, you can find them even if you're on an all-inclusive resort where people aren't supposed to find reptiles. There are, I'm sure, complaints that there are frogs like this here on this resort. And I'll tell you what, this is the best I could possibly hope for, to keep finding Cuban tree frogs everywhere I go, toads, and maybe snakes too. One of the cool things about when you're looking for herps is you're not always gonna find herps. You're gonna find things like birds and insects, and then if you're near a beach, you're gonna find crustaceans too. So I believe these are fiddler crabs. I'm not really a crustacean guy. And then we found these really cool crabs in the ocean too. Again, not sure the species. Trish tried to go catch one, but it tried to take her hands off, and she does need that finger now. So we decided that we'd leave that crab in the ocean. But these ones here, these little fiddler crabs, can't harm you. And you can see them, they look like little ants everywhere right in front of you, and the camera can't pick it up because they're too far, but too small. And they go in these tiny little holes. So they have their own little hole. We tried to encourage this one to go into this hole, and he was like, nah, that's my friend Bob's, so I can't go in there. And just in general, I think they're really cool. I always thought they were a little bit bigger, but either way, I'm getting sunburned. So we're gonna go back, and if we find some rock iguanas, great. And if not, then maybe we'll just have some fun at the pool because we leave tomorrow.
Well, we didn't end up finding rock iguanas, and we didn't find any snakes except for the dead one we found on horseback, but that's okay. We had a great time, and I think you will too. If you go on vacation and you're looking to do a little bit of herping, you definitely can, even if it's an all-inclusive resort. I want to say thank you guys for watching this video and hitting like and subscribe. Please do join the Patreon if you want discounts on merch, one-on-ones, and things like that. Thanks for everyone who signed up. And because we do videos on Mondays and Thursdays, that means I'll see you in the next one.